In today's video, we're going through some of the key factors that I use when choosing my markets and craft fairs. We're going to walk through everything you need to know when choosing those markets for yourself in order to make those market days a success. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you for joining. My name's Christian, and I'm a stay-at-home mom and longtime crocheter. I do mainly do markets and craft fairs. And I'm mainly here just to share those experiences with you, share any tips and tricks. We do market recaps, discuss any other crochet-related topics. So if you're a crafter or just interested or curious about craft fairs, then you're in the right place. So go ahead and grab your whip or whatever you're currently working on or crafting, and let's go ahead and talk about turning that craft into a wonderful and fun market experience. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of my crochet updates, and let's just get into it. So first, I'm going to talk about choosing the right event for you. When it comes to choosing the perfect event for your crochet projects or creations, there are a few things that I personally like to consider. The first thing I like to consider is the type of event that it is. So what I've learned is there are different crowds or atmospheres. So you want to consider, are you leaning towards a farmer's market, a craft fair, a festival, or flea market? So those, again, have their own unique audience and atmospheres that, again, they can impact your sales. So if your goal isn't sales, maybe it's just to get your name out there. Maybe that doesn't matter to you. But if your goal is sales, you do want to kind of try to pay attention to that. Again, what I've experienced and learned is farmers markets isn't really for me. Now, if I just want to just do a little market, again, just to get my name out there in the area, then I might do a farmer's market. But for me, personally, farmer's markets just isn't it for me. I don't tend to do a lot of sales at farmer's markets just because the crowds tend to be smaller. Now, I have seen other people go to farmer's markets. Maybe specific farmers markets are bigger. So again, just, paying attention to the specific event or farmers market, is it big, is it small? But again, just making sure the type of event is one that you want to participate in. Another thing is the event history. So that's another key factor. Is it a new event or is it an annual event? Some newer events may have a smaller crowd because it might be their first time hosting the event. Whereas an annual event, that might be their second, third, fourth time hosting that event. So they might have bigger crowds. So that also can, help you gauge how many potential customers you can have as a turnout. That can help you gauge your expected sales, and so on and so forth. Now, the third thing I like to consider when choosing my events is the event location. Now, choosing the right location is essential because you'll want to consider the venue's familiarity. If no one's familiar with the event venue, no one may show up. You'll also want to consider the event's marketing efforts for that venue. Again, if it's not a familiar venue, and those marketing efforts aren't there, you may not have anyone come. Customer accessibility, is it accessible to the public? Is the parking, is there good parking? Are they gonna have to park 10 miles away and walk over? Is it worth the walk from the parking? You wanna just consider all those things. I once attended a festival that I thought was going to be a really, really good event because it was like a Founders Day parade. They had rides, they had food, they had a bunch of kids attractions, but it was extremely hot and it was in an inconvenient location where, again, they also didn't have really good marketing. So unfortunately, that did not have high foot traffic, and I made maybe $100, and I ended up having to leave because it was too hot for me and my 3-year-old. So, those are the things you want to kind of try to pay attention to. Now, this one is really, really, really important. Target demographic. So you definitely want to make sure that your event attracts your target demographic audience or your target audience. So you want to be where your potential customers are. Now, this is a little bit tricky because, of course, you can have kids that want your products. You could have teens that want your products. You could have adults that want your products. I have plenty of older people that buy my stuff for themselves, but I will say majority of people that want to buy are kids or parents for their kids or grandparents for their kids. So when I look at events, I do try to make sure that there will be kids there. So most of the events that I try to do are festivals mostly, because I know that there'll be face painters. If I see that there's face painters there, I know there's going to be probably parents with kids. If I see that there's going to be kids attractions like bouncy houses, kids rides, things like that, then I know there's going to be kids there. So whenever I see that there's going to be a bunch of kids activities, I tend to do those because I feel like, the more kids, the more likely I'm going to be able to get more sales. Again, I get sales from people other than kids, but a lot of them do come from kids. So just making sure whatever your craft is, that your target audience is there, because that is very, very important. You don't want to just go set up at a market that doesn't have anything to do with what you're selling, because then you might not sell anything. Now, the fifth thing is foot traffic versus the amount of vendors. Now, for this one, you wouldn't really know anything about this unless maybe you've participated in the specific event, or maybe it's a recurring annual event that you can kind of look at their previous event history. But just making sure that there's a good balance of vendors versus the customers and foot traffic, because too many vendors versus customers, of course, that's going to lead to disappointing sales for you. Again, if sales is your goal. I've been at events where it was a decent event in itself, but I didn't get as many sales because there were so many vendors. There was also so many customers, but there were so many vendors that I just felt like there was just so many options to choose from. So I just felt like, if that number of vendors was maybe just, down by a third or something, that, maybe those sales would have been a little bit higher for each vendor. So just making sure to watch out for that. Most events do a good job of keeping down the numbers of similar vendors so that there's a good variety, but just making sure to watch out for how many vendors there are versus the foot traffic or expected foot traffic. Now, another thing I like to look for personally is the competition. And by competition, it may sound strange, but I don't mean competition with other crocheters. So I'm not talking about how many other crocheters are going to be at a market. Really, I don't care if there's other crocheters at markets. I'm not worried about other crocheters being there. Great. I like to meet other crocheters at markets. It's always fun because it's really hard to meet each other, especially, when you're like a stay-at-home mom like me, or I just feel like we're just so spread out and so far and few between. But either way it goes, what I'm talking about, and this may be a controversial topic, is watching out for competition with resellers. They can kind of undermine the authenticity of handcrafted items because customers may feel that your prices are too high when they compare it to resellers. So just making sure to double check the vendor's mix, because some events don't allow resellers. They only allow sellers that hand make their items, like at craft fairs. Some events do allow resellers. Like the last event that I participated in allowed resellers, and my booth was literally right next to a reseller who was selling like stuffed animals. And in my opinion, I did not like that. I did good at that event, of course. I mean, I was still able to make well over $1,000 at the event, but I just feel like I might have been able to make more if that seller wasn't right next to me selling stuffed animals. That was a reseller, not, those stuffed animals weren't handmade. And the prices were competing with my prices, and some people were looking at my stuff going, whoa, you know what, that's expensive, and then going to the reseller's booth and finding a stuffed animal that was cheaper. And so, you know, again, controversial topic, but I'm not going to go off in a tangent because I feel some type of way about resellers at markets, but, you know, I feel like they belong at more of like a flea market type event, but that's a whole other subject. So just be aware if you feel like me, just making sure to check the event and see, you know, possibly what the vendor mix is, what it allows, and things like that, to make sure that, you know, you're comfortable with the type of vendors that will be there. Now, of course, seasonal considerations, you always want to take weather into account as much as possible. It can affect the attendance and your sales, but of course, if you're like me, you live in Alabama, it could rain tomorrow and then it could be freezing cold the next day. It could be burning hot the next day. You cannot control it. You might have signed up for a market. It says rain or shine. Nothing you can do about it. So just making sure to think ahead to maybe what month you're, you know, signing up for a market in, things like that, and just kind of taking that into consideration. Next one is booth fees. So when signing up for a market or looking into a market event, just make sure to determine how much you're willing to spend on a booth fee, because they can range anywhere from, you know, $10, $20 to over $100 for larger festivals. Now, this is where you'll just want to decide whether the market's, you know, gonna meet your overall profit goals. I mean, I've done some that are $20, $25, and I've done some that are $125. And I've been happy with doing those that are $125 because I felt like it was worth it for me because I was able to make over $1,000 at those markets. So you just want to, you know, make that decision on your own, decide if it's worth it for you, but just making sure to take those things into consideration when you are looking into those events. Business licenses and permits. This is another controversial topic because we're not all licensed. I personally do not have a business license. So you'll want to make sure you have any necessary licenses for your state. Every state is different. Some events allow you to act as a contractor, I believe, and they will provide you forms to pay your taxes at the end of the event. You definitely want to clarify those details with the event coordinator. I know a lot of the events that I participate in specifically don't require a business license, and most of the events that I attend give me the forms that I need to pay the taxes at the end of the event. So I don't really have to do anything. I just pay the booth fee, set up my stuff, and at the end of the event, they give me the forms that I need to pay the taxes. So, done deal. Now, some of the larger events that I'm looking into doing for next year, I know, for example, one of them that I want to do is a larger event. And for example, I live in Alabama, so it's in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So for that specific event, I believe it requires a one-day permit or business license, and it requires I think it's a permit. So in order for you to like take up or accept taxes for the day, and then they still give you the forms you need to pay the taxes, like the state and city taxes or whatnot. So some events will do that. They'll require you to get like any licenses and permits, but it's just for like one day. So, you know, you may have something like that. So just make sure, you know, to double check maybe with the coordinator if you're concerned about it. But if you're not licensed, you know, with a, I guess an LLC or a sole proprietor or whatever, then just double check if you're concerned about it. Moving along to product management. So first thing is stock and prepping. So of course, proper preparation and stock management are key here. You don't want to run out of your stock too early in the event. If you're planning to participate in several events, you'll want to ensure you give yourself plenty of time to replenish your stock before your next event. I know for me, this past year, that was a learning curve. I know I did a few events where I gave myself like 2 weeks between, and it was a little bit of a crunch because I would end up almost selling out and then have 2 weeks in between and then have to like restock everything. So it was a bit of a crunch. And then I also have carpal tunnel struggles. So you'll just want to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time in between your markets that you feel you can restock and replenish. The most effective way that I've found to, keep track of everything is just to, make not a spreadsheet, but a printout. And I just, write everything out, write how much I've got, and then go back after each market and write what's sold. That way I can count up and see what I need to restock, and then add anything that I want to add into the inventory, any new items and whatnot for the next market. So just make sure that, you find your own way to keep track of everything and just keep that stock built up. That way you're not in a huge crunch before every market trying to figure out, oh my God, what do I need? So just keeping that in mind. Now, the second important thing is with your products is item and price variety. Now, I feel like diversity is crucial with your items. Just making sure to create a wide range of products to attract different types of customers. And, creating a various price range, because that strategy can, broaden your customer base. I can't tell you how many times a kid will have come to my booth and wanted like the biggest thing that's like $80 or something, or, even $40, and their parent will be like, and, it's always nice to be able to go, point to the other section on your booth. Like, well, I also have these cuties over here that are, like $10, $8, and they can still walk away happy with something lower. So just making sure to have a wide variety of price ranges, sizes and things like that is definitely key. And then making sure, after you've done markets or events in different areas, you'll also have an idea of what sells best in that area. If you sell a lot of smaller stuff in that area, sell a lot of bigger stuff in that area, then you'll have an idea of what to bring each time. Another important thing, in my opinion, for your items at markets is theming the items and to the event or the season. So what I like to do is, with just a couple, is just aligning them to match the event or the season. So, if it's, say, Halloween or Thanksgiving, Christmas, things like that, Easter, just make a few bunnies or make a few pumpkins, ghosts, things like that to go along with the season. That way, your customers connect with the items and the thematic level. Other ways that you can theme the item to the event. For example, there's one specific one that I do, and I love it. I always do really well. Is called a punk rock flea market. And so at that one, I like to always do kind of like alternative pieces. So I'll do like two-headed bunnies, spiders, Cthulhu, Mothman, stuff that's kind of just a little bit alternative, dragons, things like that, along with my standard items, but stuff that just kind of go along with the event. That way, I have some regular items, but also items that I feel like people will be able to connect with that are going to come to that event specifically. So, that's always a good idea as well, just to kind of go along with the event. And then the last thing important for your market or event, for me specifically, but maybe for you too, is taking a buddy. This is, important for overall for your market experience, in my opinion. Having a buddy can be a lifesaver, I feel like, whether it be a husband, a friend, for me, a sister-in-law. They can help with setup, sales, give you breaks, help you get food from food trucks, whatever it might be. Help with your toddler, because my toddler usually comes with me for my markets. It's always a plus. It's not ever fun to go to a market by yourself because, number one, you can never, go to bathroom breaks. You have to ask someone next to you to watch your booth. And if it's a busy market, like, what are you going to do? And then, if you have a toddler like me, they just have to sit there all day. So it's always nice when I can bring my sister-in-law, because if there's kids activities, then she can take her and they can actually have fun if we have to be at a 6-hour, 7-hour market. So taking a buddy is always lovely. I've never had anybody steal anything from a market, but I have like real bad ADHD, so I can't like focus on, any one thing. So it's always nice to have an extra pair of eyes too, because there can sometimes be so many people in your booth if it's busy. So it's always nice to have another pair of eyes. So anyways, taking a buddy is always nice and essential if you can bring one. So definitely do that if you can. So overall, the lessons I learned this year provided me with great insights for the market year ahead. I encourage you or anyone interested in craft fairs or markets to take the plunge, embrace the challenges, and of course, enjoy the experience. If this is something that you're looking into, hopefully, these few things that I shared help you, find those markets, gives you some things to consider when you're choosing those markets. And I'm excited about what the future holds for both my crochet business and yours. Hopefully I'll see you at some markets. But thank you for watching. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, hit the notification bell for more tips and crochet vlogs. And until next time, happy crocheting. Bye.